Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. It is now time to look at some results in Japan. Now, I've been wanting to do a video where we look at what decks are winning in Japan right now because Japan does have Crimson Haze out and they have access to the new cards like Greninja EX. They have the new Blood Moon EX. Their format is a little bit different than the one we have because they do have some of the new cards. And in today's video, we're going to look at the city leagues in Japan right now that have been going on, and we're going to see what decks are doing good at these city leagues heading in to the Crimson Haze format that they are in. I don't think they have all of the cards yet from all like the Ogre Pawns and stuff. I know they just have stuff like Greninja EX and everything. But I'm excited to look at what is doing good Japan. I've been waiting to do this video for a while, but there's just been so much content to make on the second channel here that I thought it'd be a great time to finally look at some Japan results and see what is winning in Japan right now and what lists people are using for the new Greninja and the new Blood Moon, which I think are making a pretty decent impact in Japan. So I got Limitless here. Limitless does have the ability to look at the City League results. I'll leave a link to Limitless down below if you want to go check out the City League results for yourself. And of course, if you're new to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 13,000 subs and stuff like that. So we'll start things off. We got this first tournament here. We can look at some of the winning decks. Now, we're not going to go through every deck because they have all of the top 16 deck lists. We're not going to look at every deck list. This video would be way too long if we did. We're going to go through some of the tournaments, and we're just going to pick and choose which decks we want to look at. But we will start off with the meta decks, see what they're playing. So we'll start things off with Lost Box. So Lost Box right now in Japan is still doing pretty good. Now, the way Lost Box is being played right now is it's still similar to what we have. We got the Moon, we got the Hands, we got the Raikou in the deck, but the big innovation that Lost Box is now playing is that Blood Moon EX. Now, this card is very, very good. It's basically like a new version of Radiant Charizard, and that card is already a broken card. This card has that Elder's Technique ability where this Pokemon's attacks cost one colorless less for each prize card your opponent has taken, and then you have its attack, Blood Moon. That does a nice clean 240 damage, and then during your next turn, it can't attack. It's quite literally just Radiant Charizard Part 2, except that it does 10 less damage, which kind of is relevant, and it also doesn't have a specific type. It's a colorless type, so it doesn't hit for weakness like Charizard does, which is also pretty nice, because one of the things that makes Charizard so good is it can hit for weakness. It's one of the reasons why grass Pokemon don't succeed right now. Now, Blood Moon Ursaluna is a very versatile card within Lost Box, because all it needs is colorless energy. There is no required energy in the attack cost of this Pokemon, so it's a great card to play within Lost Box, because as your opponent is taking prizes, you now have Ursaluna. Now, the one thing that makes Ursaluna so good in Lost Box is it basically gives you a Radiant Charizard, which is just insane. So one of the things that makes Lost Box, you know, kind of iffy is sometimes you have to decide, do you want to play Greninja or Charizard? Both versions of Lost Box have seen good success, the Greninja and the Charizard versions. But now that we have Blood Moon Ursaluna, you don't need Radiant Charizard. You can instead use Greninja and Ursaluna, which are basically just like having Charizard and Greninja within the same deck. And that's why Lost Box has gotten a massive buff. Now, the one downside of Ursaluna, it's a 2-prizer. It's not a 1-prizer like Charizard is. Charizard has an advantage due to the fact that it is a 1-prize Pokemon, but Ursaluna can be very, very useful to have within the deck because it's basically like having a Radiant Charizard. And it does have 260 HP. It's a pretty thick Pokemon. 260 is a lot of health to have, and I definitely think it's making a big impact in Lost Box. I mean, even if we look at the second place list here, once again, it plays that Ursaluna. This card just does a lot of work within Lost Box. It's so good. You can see both lists here using the Ursaluna. This one also has Crisis Punch. No Raikou in this build, but like I said, the Ursaluna just makes a big difference within those two decks. We can look at how Charizard's doing. Charizard doesn't really gain that many new cards with the new Crimson Haze set, I don't think. It does have the Tord build here. It looks like it's similar to Tord's build. Not playing the Eerie in the deck. But I guess it's not like a Tord build exactly, because it plays 2 Rotom. It does play the Bibarel Pidgeot split, which is kind of like what Tord did, right? So it's kind of the same thing. Doesn't have the Clef or anything, but Charizard's still probably going to be good in Japan, I imagine. Now we can look at the top 4 Lugia deck here. We see Lugia does gain some new cards. Now, obviously, Lugia can also play Blood Moon Ursaluna. So not only can Lost Box play this card, but so can Lugia. This card, once again, needing no specific energy means you can play this within Lugia. In fact, you can use this against stuff like Future Hands, which kind of helps the matchup a little bit, because now you have a Pokemon that our hand struggles to 1-hit KO due to its amount of HP, and they can also get 1-hit KO'd by the Ursaluna. This card actually might make the matchup a bit more winnable for Lugia now against Iron Hands. But it's a great combo for Lugia. We see this build does have the Cinchinos, has Luxray, which is good against Pidgeot in the mirror. Now, it does also play this new A-Spec card. We'll have to see how many decks play Survival Cast. Now, this card is a pretty strong new A-Spec where the Pokemon this card is attached to has full HP and would be knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack. It's not knocked out and its remaining HP is 10, and then you discard the tool card. So it's like Focus Sash. We've done a video, we looked at this card already. It is very strong, and it could be cool in Lugia. You can put this on your Cinchino, and if you do, the Cinchino doesn't get vacuumed, it doesn't give up a prize card, and then you get like 2 turns of just Cinchino doing a big amount of damage. That is kind of disgusting. Now, I'm sure there's another new A-Spec we'll be getting within Twilight Masquerade, which this card will be featured in, because Japan's getting the mini set. But the new Energy A-Spec will probably be what Lugia plays over Survival Cast, but it is a really interesting inclusion. And yeah, Lugia can get away with playing Ursaluna. It's a great upgrade of the deck. Ursaluna is such a strong card. We got another Zard list here, just another Arvin Zard with Pidgeot build. We got a Guardy deck. I don't think Guardy gains much. Yeah, we do see Gardevoir does have Unfair Stamp, so I guess that is one thing that it can play, this new Unfair Stamp. When something is knocked out, both players shuffle their hand in their deck. You draw 5 cards, and your opponent draws 2 cards. You can really limit your opponent's resources with the power of Unfair Stamp. Definitely a really strong card to have within the Guardy deck. Gardevoir has a lot of A-Specs to choose from, and I don't think there's any like new Psychic partners that can play. Shempao, once again, just kind of the same old Shempao stuff we're seeing. Another Lost Box deck, playing the Blood Moon Ursaluna. Again, it just fits in the deck like a shoe. It's a big, bulky, basic EX Pokemon that doesn't need any energy. It works like Radiant Charizard. It's pretty good. And that was that top 8. I guess we'll move on to the next tournament. We do have a lot of tournaments. We're not going to go through every deck. We're just going to go skim through them. We can look at this list here that won a tournament in Japan. We do see it's an Arc Vulpix Noivern deck. I did do a video on this deck on the main channel already, and it's a pretty interesting anti-meta deck. Vulpix is really good against Charizard. Vulpix can also block Blood Moon Ursaluna, which is something to consider. I guess so does Noivern. Noivern also blocks damage from basic Pokemon. Really good against future and ancient decks. I've done a video on this Vulpix Noivern deck already. And it did win a City League. Another Pidgeysard in second place, playing the kind of the Tord package with the Bibarel Pidgeot split. Another Lost Box deck, once again playing that Blood Moon Ursaluna. We'll have to see what other Lost Box piles are getting cooked up in Japan right now. Guardian top 4, once again, playing Unfair Stamp. So I guess Unfair Stamp is a good A-Spec for the deck. It might help a lot against future hands. I guess if you like Unfair Stamp them, plus like hit them with a Drifloon KO turn 2 and get disgusting. Hey man, maybe we're going to see Unfair Stamp be the normal A-Spec Guardy plays, because you would imagine it would be Hero's Cape, but maybe not. Another Lost Box, once again, Ursaluna beat in that build. We got a Lugia here we can look at. Playing the Flutter Mane, playing the Mew, does have that Blood Moon Ursaluna. So, I mean, if you're somebody who likes to play Lugia Cinchino right now in our format, it's a pretty good deck. It's not bad. And of course, you know, it does get a bit of an upgrade with the Ursaluna. This one also plays the Survival Cast A-Spec as its A-Spec of choice. No Master Ball, but the Survival Cast. We can look at Control real quick. Now, Control doesn't really gain a lot from Crimson Haze, I don't think. It does get a lot better with the full set. The Massive Change set in Japan is where a lot of the new Control cards are going to be in, like that new Flute card thing that can force Pokemon onto the bench from the top of your opponent's deck. But right now, Snorlax doesn't have that. But Snorlax is still good. But we might see some Control decks start to incorporate the Ursaluna. We got another Zard here. Looks like just kind of a Tord Zard build. Does play the Hero's Cape, however. Actually, no, it's not Tord Zard. There's no Bibarel, I lied. But just kind of look at the Zard lists. All right, next up, we'll look at this tournament. The winning deck was Lugia. Once again, pretty similar list that we saw earlier. Playing the Ursaluna, playing the Flutter Mane, does have Survival Cast within the deck. The second place deck was a Baxcalibur to Dunsparce deck with Shempao. That's a really interesting take on the Baxcalibur deck. Instead of playing the Bibarel engine, it does use a Bibarel and a Dunsparce engine together. So that's an interesting core for the deck. I guess the thing with the Dunsparce, you also get to free up a bench space when you use it. So it's an interesting concept, actually. And you can also use it as a pivot, so you can save an energy. Interesting. 2 Zard lists here. Once again, Tord build, it looks like, and then kind of just another build. Oh, they do have Enhanced Hammer, so I guess that's one thing. Enhanced Hammer has been reprinted in Crimson Haze. It is coming back. It does allow you to discard a splash energy from your opponent's active Pokemon, which is really, really good against Mist Energy if you want to use TM Devo. And it can slow the opponent down. Good against Lugia to get rid of Gift Energy, too. Another Lugia build here we can quickly take a look at. Playing, again, the Ursaluna and the Unfair Stamp, the Survival Cast. So Survival Cast and Ursaluna in this Lugia list here. It looks like cool stuff, cool stuff. We do have an interesting Gouging Fire toolbox deck here. That's kind of cool. It's a Gouging Fire box with Iron Leaves in the deck. I kind of like that. Gouging Fire Leaves combo, it might be pretty good right now in the meta. I'm not going to lie. Even on our current format, that's cool. I like when they're spicy stuff in Japan. That's cool. That's cool. We can look at these Lost Zone decks too. Once again, just, yeah, pretty similar decks here. Looks like similar lists. Yeah, just same attackers alongside that Ursaluna. Moving on to the next tourney here. The deck that won, no surprise to anyone, it was Lost Box with Ursaluna being within that deck. Then we see a Tina deck here in second place, playing Ursaluna. So, while Ursaluna can be good in Lost Box, hey, it doesn't seem terrible in Tina. Like I said, having its raw power is really good. Does a lot of damage. Doesn't really have any downsides to it, other than the fact that you can only use it towards like the mid to late game in Lost Box. But it definitely could be good in Tina. There's a Raging Bolt, almost said Raikou. Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks build here, playing Koraidon. A bit more of a straightforward approach to the deck. No other like engine for Raging Bolt like Gardevoir or anything like that. No Lost Box deck playing once again the Ursaluna. This just might be the best like way to play Lost Box going forward. Just the Moon, the hands, the Ursaluna. Lost Box is dominating, not gonna lie. We've been seeing a lot of them. There's an interesting Goldengo Basque Legion deck. Goldengo does get one upgrade, and that is the new A-Spec card, Hyper Aroma. I did want to highlight this actually for Goldengo. So this card I don't think is fantastic in most decks, but I think Goldengo does get a lot of value out of it. It allows you to get 3 Stage 1 Pokemon out of your deck and into your hand. So if you have 3 Gimme Ghouls in play, this just flat out gets you 3 Goldengos. It effectively gives you not only 3 Goldengos, plus 4 draw cards too, because you're getting to coin bonus a bunch of times, which is really nice. So really interesting A-Spec for Goldengo. I do like Prime Catcher, but if you're playing Goldengo, then you probably want to set up, and Hyper Aroma does let you set up. This could be a really nice card to have in Goldengo for sure. So that's cool. So I'll actually look at the other Goldengo list here, too. Playing it also. This one was Scizor base, which, like I said, when you're sacrificing the Prime Catcher, you kind of lose access to, like, the Palkia combo. Like, it's not as good, basically, right? So this build here does play the new A-Spec, too. So that's cool. 2 Goldengo decks playing that. Nice, nice stuff. All right, next tourney here. Got a Guardy deck. There's only top 8 in this one. We can look at the Guardy list at 1. Playing Unfair Stamp. Is Unfair Stamp going to be the new meta within Gardevoir? Maybe. And there are 2 Lost Box decks. We'll see if both the Tina and their Ursaluna. Okay, the Tina list doesn't play it. It plays Iron Hands. Whoa. Okay, I thought this Tina list was going to play the Ursaluna too, like that Lost Box. But this one plays Iron Hands in the deck also. That's kind of crazy. Look at the Lugia deck here too. Ooh, okay, the spice is real. Lugia with Iron Thorns. Now, Iron Thorns EX does have that ability where while this Pokemon is in the active spot, Pokemon with a rule box in play, except for future Pokemon, have no abilities. So, while it's in the active, you're going to start off Pidgeot, Charizard, Greninja, Comfey, to name a few. And that's pretty good. And then you got the attack Bolt Cyclone doing 140, and you can move an energy from it to one of your bench Pokemon. It's a really interesting idea within Lugia, though, I guess. It's interesting. But I guess, like, I guess you can Genergy to it, but I don't know. In Lugia, that's kind of weird, because it is any Pokemon in place. You would shut off your own Summoning Star, but it does slow the opponent down. It does still have the Ursalunas and Cinchinos and stuff. That's an interesting concept, actually. We can look at the future deck here. Just Turbo Hands just kind of stays the same. Turbo Hands can, of course, play the Thorns. Yeah, as you can see, this Turbo Hands does play the new Iron Thorns. It kind of fits like a glove in future hands, because you can slow the opponent down, and you can also build it up with Electric Generator. Iron Thorns DX is a Lightning-type Pokemon, so it does synergize nicely with Electric Generator, which is really good. So it could be good within the future hands deck for sure. All right, next tourney here. We see a Lugia deck 1. We'll take a look at this list. Yep, another Lugia 60, the Ursaluna Cinchino combo with the Survival Cast. Is Survival Cast really that good within Lugia? I mean, it seems pretty broken with Cinchino. Really broken. Got a couple Guardies we can look at here. Guardy playing Unfair Stamp, and 2 more Guardies. Unfair Stamp in this one, no Hero's Cape, and Unfair Stamp, so yeah, a lot of Unfair Stamp shenanigans. And here we go. We got a Greninja deck. Now, it didn't get top 8, but I did want to take a look at a Greninja EX deck. And this is a Greninja Pidgeot list. So I guess the idea behind Greninja EX is you kind of play it like Charizard. Now, we can take a look at Greninja here. It does have the attack Ninja Blade, which for 1 water energy does 170 damage. And then you can search your deck for any card and put it into your hand. A very powerful effect for 1 energy. That's pretty good. And then you have a Duplicate's Barrage. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, and it does 120 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Or 2 Pokemon, sorry. And including the bench. So it's like Rapid Strike Urshifu, basically. It's similar. It's a very similar card to Rapid Strike Urshifu. And it's very strong. If your opponent doesn't have Manaphy in the deck, Duplicate's Barrage can be very strong. Its first attack is really good to like get any card out of your deck. That's good. And when you combine Greninja with Pidgeot, you're basically seeing like 2 free cards every turn. One cool combo this deck does play actually is the Prime Catcher and Canceling Clone, which you can do with Greninja. When you're getting 2 cards every turn with Greninja and then going into your turn, you can Pidgeot again. you can use Cologne Prime Catcher fairly easily in combination with the Pidgeot Greninja combo. So that's kind of sweet. Definitely an interesting engine to play for sure. And yeah, we'll have to see what other Greninja EX decks are being cooked up, because I'm sure there will be a couple others. But I definitely wanted to see what people were playing for Greninja. We can look at the Goldengo list here. Doesn't play that other new ace spec, but it plays Prime Catcher still. But no Palkia actually in that build. Interesting. Look at the future deck here real quick. Yeah, it's an Iron Thorns future box deck here. More of like a toolbox approach. Doesn't play the hands. In fact, the ace spec of choice, very fascinating. The ace spec of choice is the Unfair Stamp. It's also playing Gardenia in the deck, and I guess that synergizes with both Iron Leaves. We can take a look at the one prize Iron Leaves. It does do a nice chunk of damage. If any of your Pokemon get knocked out, it does do 160. You can do 180 damage with a damage booster in play. Future Booster or Iron Crown would allow this to one-shot a Charizard EX on a one-prizer. Very useful, because Charizard is still very popular, obviously. Look at this. It's got second place. Look at that. Charizard's still playing Belt. I mean, Charizard can honestly play any ace spec. I could even see it using like Unfair Stamp. All right, we'll look at this tourney here. And we got a Greninja Charizard. Whoa, the spice is real. So, I mean, Greninja and Charizard. I mean, we were just talking about the theory of rating Greninja and rating Charizard in the Lost Zone engine. And now we're literally seeing Greninja EX and Charizard EX in the same deck. That's kind of crazy. I guess there's some synergy. They're both just really strong Stage 2 attackers that do very good things. You have Charizard as your beat stick. You have Greninja as your beat stick / bent sniper, which if your opponent doesn't respect it, it can be very good. You do still have Cologne and Prime Catcher within the deck to use for the Greninja's other attack. That's kind of crazy, actually. It kind of reminds me of that Tord build from, I forget what term it was, but towards Rapidash Urshifu Charizard deck. It's kind of a similar concept, because you're kind of playing Rapidash Urshifu with Greninja. There's a lot of Stage 2s in the deck. Maybe a Charmeleon could be useful in here, because you are playing 3 different Stage 2 lines. That's a crazy concept. Honestly, it's kind of sick, actually. I mean, Charizard is just such a broken card. You can really put it with anything, in all honesty. And I mean, Greninja doesn't seem like a terrible partner for Charizard, in all honesty. That's kind of wild, actually. It got 3rd place, too, so it did do decent. Future Hands build, pretty, more of a toolbox approach, playing Valiant, Leaves, and Valiant Leaves and Hands. Tina, this Tina list does play the Blood Moon Ursaluna, and it looks like that Blood Moon Ursaluna is going to make its rounds within a Lost Tina, judging from it being in that list. Let's take a look at Dialga Matang. Dialga Matang does play the Blood Moon Ursaluna. I mean, why not? It's a good card to play in this deck, too. This card is just going to be like in any deck that has an energy acceleration system, isn't it? Because it seems like it could fit like a glove within this Dialga deck, too. That's kind of cool, actually. Yeah, you can put like 5 energy on it, do 240 out of nowhere. That's kind of cool. Is that the buff Dialga needed? Could be. You never know. Another future deck, future toolbox. And why not? Play the Ursaluna in the deck, too. Why not? The card's just so broken, just put it in like any deck. Like I said, even in that deck. It's got the Thorns and the Ursaluna. Lost Bach Engine, playing the Ursaluna. Let's take a look at the Lugia build here real quick. Yeah, Lugia with Ursaluna, Cinccino. This might just be kind of like the optimal way to play Lugia. Not sure on the Flutter main, but it's interesting. A couple Thorn stacks here. Quad Iron Thorns EX. Now, that's a spicy approach to Iron Thorns. So, why not play, a toolbox deck of future Pokemon? You can just play nothing but Iron Thorns, meaning that your opponent will have no abilities the entire game. Now, that's an interesting concept, right? Basically, just playing nothing but Iron Thorns makes it so your opponent just never will have an ability, which is a good meme for sure. And honestly, I kind of like it. Just play 2 Colognes, probably really good against Mimikyu. Very interesting stuff. I love me some quad decks, and quad Iron Thorns definitely seems like it could be right up my alley. Just slow the opponent down, sit there and Thorns them to death. Kind of a funny concept, but honestly, it actually could work pretty well, I'm not going to lie. I mean, you're doing like okay damage. I guess 120 a turn. You could do, what, 140 with the Future Booster Capsule. That's a very interesting concept. There were 2 of them here in this tournament. Different lists. Got the Grabbers, Hero's Cape. This one has Rhyme in it. Draw 3 cards. Switch your opponent's active to the bench. Okay. It's kind of like Iron Bundle and a draw card in one. Got the Hammers in the deck to slow the opponent down. I love me some quad decks. Quad decks kind of suck right now. Iron Thorns quad might revive that archetype. That's kind of interesting. See, a Palkia deck won this tournament. Oh, my God. Palkia with Leaves and Blood Moon EX. Like I said, why not? Play the Blood Moon Ursaluna. It's just that good of a card. And then Iron Leaves is kind of cool to help against the Zard matchup. I wonder if there's any value in playing Palkia right now in our current format with Iron Leaves to help against Zard. Because Palkia could be good, but Charizard just kind of goes burr against it. And maybe Leaves can help a little bit. Speaking of Charizard, we got another Zard here playing Delphox and Fluttermane. I had a Hero's Cape too. Ooh, there's a Sablezard. So we got Sablezard, and the first time we've seen a Lost Box deck this video without that Ursaluna within the deck. This one is just kind of the more traditional Sablezard list we've been seeing. Guardy again, just playing the Unfair Stamp. Cool stuff. The Lost Box. Yeah, another Lost Pile with the Ursaluna. Look at another Quad Iron Thorns deck here. I mean, 2 tournaments now we've seen the Quad Iron Thorns deck, but also 2 tournaments where they haven't been in top 8. Does that mean something? I don't know, but that's kind of an interesting concept for sure. Maybe we'll see one in top 8 at some point in this video. And we'll look at the Goldengo deck again. Playing Prime Catcher. Ooh, Reverum Engine. But yeah, Prime Catcher over the other ace spec that we got. That's interesting. We got an Arctina. I don't think Arctina really changes. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same 6 we've been seeing even in our format. Arctina doesn't really get any upgrades with the new set, I don't think. All right, next turn, we got a couple Lugia dubs here. Yep, Lugia with Survival Cast Ursaluna. Another Future Box, Future Hands with the 2 of Iron Thorns to slow the opponent down. Not bad, not bad. We got a Bibzard here. Yep, Charizard. Doesn't really gain too much, I guess, from the new set. Guardy with Unfair Stamp. I guess Unfair Stamp and Guardy's the way to go. All right, here we go. We do have a Quad Iron Thorns deck in top 8 in this tournament. This one did have an Iron Thorns quad deck in the top 8. Once again, really sick deck. Playing that one of Metagross is very interesting. So it allows you to, if you do it from your hand, or once you're in turn, if you do this Pokemon from your deck at the beginning of the turn, you can put on your bench if it's not full and then draw 3 cards. Interesting idea. There's a couple medals in the deck for the Metagross too. Huh. Interesting. Interesting stuff. Okay. Another Lugia, yeah, with the Survival Cast and the Ursaluna. We can look at this Pidgeot control deck. So yeah, Pidgeot control can also play the Ursaluna. So the Pidgeot control already does kind of play into like the Radiant Charizard Penny Loop, but now you can play Ursaluna instead of Radiant Charizard in the deck. So is it better to play the Ursaluna over Zard? I'm not too sure. They both are like decent. I mean, they're literally like the same card, right? Except Charizard does more damage technically. But yeah, Pidgeot control can play the Ursaluna now. Honestly, they could maybe play both Zard and Ursaluna. There's upsides and downsides. Ursaluna is, of course, a 2-prizer, where Charizard's a 1-prizer. It can come in a bit more handy. Let's go to this tournament here. Winning deck was Gardevoir with Unfair Stamp. Look at that. Champions Festival, too. Lugia list playing the Ursaluna and the Survival Cast. And then another Guardy in top 4 playing Unfair Stamp. Another Palkia deck. Is it... Okay. Palkia Greninja. I kind of like this. So... Oh, it's actually a Shempao deck. Never mind. Okay, it's not a Palkia deck. It's a Shempao Baxcalibur deck with a lot of different attackers. It's got Palkia, and it's playing the 1/1 of the brand new Greninja EX. I think it's a decent addition to Shempao. It's a fighting Pokemon, so you can use it against Iron Hands, which is one of maybe Shempao's harder matchups right now, and it also can set up Baxcaliburs with Ninja Blade. You can like use it to grab rare candy and then set up for next turn. Yeah, cool stuff. I like the idea of Greninja within Shempao. I like it. Multiple stage 2s, but it's decent. Ooh, we got an Arc Armor Rouge deck to look at. Okay, it's more of a Luminous Energy pile build. It's got the Iron Hands in the deck. Still has Radiant Charizard. You know what this deck could play? Ursaluna. There you go. We got a Raging Bolt Lost Box deck. This is a deck that I kind of want to do well in our current format. We just haven't seen it have results yet. It is a fascinating 60, and I'm definitely going to hopefully try it out for a YouTube video soon. We can look at this other Palkia Bax deck. Wait, there's 2 of them. Wait, are they the same 60? Yeah, they were kind of the same list. Palkia, Shempao with the Greninja. Look at that. All right, we can look at this tournament here because we did see a Greninja Pidgeot deck win this one. And this one, once again, just kind of straightforward Pidgeot Greninja, does have Hawlucha in the deck, so you can get some extra damage on the board with its flying entry ability. So kind of just like a Charizard deck, except instead of Charizard, you have Greninja instead, which is not as strong as Charizard, but does have more plays. One of the plays the deck actually makes, it does play Unfair Stamp, so it's not playing Prime Catcher. Still has Clone in the deck, still has Counter Catcher, Boss, and stuff for the Clone, which does work the same too, but you have the Unfair Stamp, which sometimes Unfair Stamp can be really good. Honestly, Unfair Stamp plus Greninja's second attack kind of seems scary, to be honest. That seems like a very scary combo if you can pull that off. That's kind of, yeah, it's kind of spooky. Zard in second place. Playing Unfair Stamp. Unfair Stamp Zard. Unfair Zard. I mean, Zard's already unfair. Why not play Unfair Stamp and make it more unfair? All right, we got a Future Toolbox build with the Leaves and Boulder, not playing the Ursaluna. Another Shempao Bax deck. Yeah, Shempao Bax is kind of the same. Ooh, Fluttermane in the deck's an interesting idea. Huh. A couple Tinas. Yep, one Tina with the Ursaluna. Not playing the Leaves. This one has Leaves and Ursaluna, which I like. All right, we got another Quad Iron Thorns deck. Look at that. Boom. Iron Thorns Quad. All right, I like the idea of Judge. Judge Iron Thorn seems kind of scary. Because, like, if you put your opponent to 4 cards and they can't play abilities, like, especially Charizard, where they're relying on, like, Rotom, it can be pretty devastating. And you can, like, slow down the Clefas and stuff by Judge spamming them. So I kind of like the idea of Judge. Cool stuff. All right, we see an Arceus Greninja deck here in this tournament. I want to look at this one real quick. Arceus Greninja makes sense, kind of like how Charizard used to play back in the early days of the Obsidian Flames format. Everyone was like, oh, Charizard's cool, but you probably have to play it with Arceus V-Star to build it up. But it turns out you don't have to, but this build does play the Arceus V-Star to get Greninja out. And I don't hate it, because like Arceus is still not a bad attacker. You have Greninja for backup. You have fighting Pokemon. If you're playing into the Arc deck, it's decent to have. Any other interesting decks here? We just go to the next tournament, I guess. Go to this one. Any interesting stuff? We'll see if Moon to Dunsparce. Yeah. Moon to Dunsparce. Playing Enhanced Hammer, probably the only upgrade it can really gain with the new set, because you can play Enhanced Hammer to get rid of any Mist Energy for Frenzied Gouging. More Lost Zones. I guess we can look at these. Ooh, it's a Sablezard deck with a Raikou. Didn't expect to see that. And then, yeah, there we go. We got the Ursaluna Zard deck. I guess we can go to the next tournament here. More of the same stuff we've been seeing. Let's go to this one. There's too many tournaments, so we're not going to go through every one, but we're going to look at the interesting ones, because this one was actually won by that Quad Thorns deck. Now, maybe at the time when this deck won, the meta was a little less, like, you know, expected for this deck to be existing. Like, nobody maybe saw this deck coming, and maybe that's why this Quad Iron Thorns deck won this City League in Japan, because nobody at the time would have expected to see this. Maybe that's why it won, but it's a really interesting concept, like I said. And I love me some quad decks, because quad decks are fun to play. There are two Guardies in the finals. This one has a 1/1 Espathra, which I would imagine would have been really good against the Iron Thorn. Actually, no, Iron Thorn shuts off Espathra, so maybe not actually. And this Guardy actually does play this new A-Spec, the Hyper Aroma, which is pretty good. I mean, you can get 3 Kirlias. You can even get Espathra with it. Kind of cool stuff, actually. I mean, Gardevoir can play Unfair Stamp, Hero's Cape, and I feel like Gardevoir can also get away with playing Hyper Aroma, too. Doesn't seem terrible either, actually. Cool stuff. Got an interesting Roaring Moon Darkrai deck here. And you have Roaring Moon Mew deck. I imagine that's spicy. It's got Toedscruel in the deck. Roaring Moon 1-Prizer, 2 Mew EXs. Interesting. I guess it's a Turbo Moon deck, obviously, with like a bunch of different like options. Cool stuff. Japan's always cooking. Let's go to this tournament. Is there anything spicy? Well, you can look at this control deck here. Yeah, Pidgeot control, once again, adapting to the new meta, playing in that Ursaluna. The deck will get a lot better, I think, with the Mask of Change set, because, again, there's more control cards. You can look at Ancient Box here in the new format. See the Ancient Box deck with the Koraidon, the Slitherwing Tusk. This is before EUIC, so, I mean, the EUIC Champion, Seniors Division Champions list, I think is, like, perfect for Ancient Box. And this was before. A Lost Zone Serena EX deck. Like I said, Japan is always cooking. It's even playing a Mimikyu in the deck that does as much damage for each damage counter you have in play. Yo. Kind of a cool idea. Lost Box Serena is something that I've been, like, someone has brought it up before. I've never experimented with the idea of Lost Box Serena. I wonder if that would be any good. Would it? I don't know. It's a cool concept, though. This is stage 2. It's like, even in Lost Box, it's kind of hard to pull off. Another little Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks. Pretty straightforward build here of the deck. We got a Goldengo Palkia in 16th place. Not playing Hyper Roma, opting for the Prime Catcher. Alrighty, then. Go to this one here. Any interesting stuff? We can look at the future deck that won. Yeah, okay. It was a Turbo Hands deck with Unfair Stamp. That sounds kind of disgusting. Yo, imagine this. Imagine getting Unfair Stamp to 2 after you kill the Miraidon, and then you just get amped, and then you're just, like, unable to do anything, and then you just get amped into Oblivion. That actually sounds a little scary. I'm not going to lie. Unfair Stamp in Future Hands actually sounds kind of scary. It did win this tournament, too. That does seem pretty scary, to be honest with you. All right, this Goldengo not having the Hyper Aroma. Okay. We'll go to the next page here. Ooh. Lost Zone Raging Bolt won this tournament. Let's go. Yeah, Raging Bolt, Fluttermane, Great Tusk. Does have Iron Hands in the deck. Stuff like that. Cool stuff. Yeah, I like to see it. I like to see it. Another Lost Box with the Ursaluna. We see another Quad Iron Thorns. Let's go, baby. The Quad Iron Thorns. Yeah, this one's got 4 Judge, 4 Research. Very straightforward. Consistency. Got 3 Boss, 3 Eries, 4 Hammers. Stuff like that. Yeah, cool stuff. Cool stuff. We see another Greninja Pidgeot we can look at here. Greninja Pidgeot with a 1/1 Palkia. I don't hate it. They do play the Unfair Stamp 2 in the deck. Still has that Counter Catcher Cologne combo if you want to pull off the Greninja plays, but does have the Unfair Stamp in the deck, which can be annoying. Like I said, Unfair Stamp plus Greninja's Snipe Attack, depending on the matchup, can be very devastating if you can actually pull that off. And that does seem pretty scary, not going to lie. Another Future Toolbox here with the Iron Thorns in the deck. Iron Thorns EX and Future Box. Seems like it's a decent little upgrade. An Arc Charizard deck. Interesting. Going back to the old days, the old ways. There's a couple Arc Charizards, actually. What the heck? Yeah, going back to the old ways, bro. Let's go. All right, we can go to the next tournament now, I guess. See what we got here. The deck that won was Lugia Cinchino. Once again, playing the Ursaluna and the Survival Cast. I guess Survival Cast is optimal within Lugia right now. I mean, all the lists we've seen so far have played the Survival Cast. No sight of Master Ball anywhere, so... Hey, is Cast really that good? Because like I said, it seems kind of good with Cinchino. I guess you can put on your Lugia too, which can be kind of good. If your opponent doesn't vacuum it, it's kind of grief. Tina with the Ursaluna. No leaves in this deck, though. We got another Vulpix Gudra deck. All right, no Noivern. I meant to say, yeah, no Noivern. But yeah, it's Gudra Vulpix this time instead of Noivern Vulpix. And Gudra's not bad. You see some tank there. You got some disruption with Misfortune Sisters and Eerie. That can be pretty good against Shenpao to remove their resources. Because Shenpao can one-shot Gudra, but if you're removing their resources with Eerie and Sisters, they can. The Hero's Cape can make a difference too, giving Gudra even more HP. I guess effectively Gudra has like 450 HP with that Rolling Iron effect and Hero's Cape against Shenpao, making it kind of a threat, actually. That's actually really interesting. Okay, what else do we got here? We got an Arctina list. Yeah, like I said, yeah, Arctina, nothing new with Crimson Haze and that. It looks like. All right, next tournament. Yo, Arceus Kyurem. Yo, I'm kind of down. Arc Kyurem with a Pidgeot. Now, that's spicy. It's even playing Crisis Punch in the deck. I guess if you take out a Kyurem and an Arceus, you effectively like go in a Crisis Punch range because this build plays Crisis Punch. That's an interesting idea. I mean, it makes sense. You can also Trinity Nova Energy to Kyurem to build it up. That's spicy. See, Japan's always playing the cool stuff. But it did end up losing to the Ursaluna deck, the Lost Box Ursaluna deck here in the finals, it looks like. And it looks like the Hoopa's been getting cut. No Moon in that build, actually, either. Ooh, an interesting Roaring Moon at Great Tusk deck. Actually not playing the Koraidon, opting to play Great Tusk instead. So I guess you can mill their resources and then kind of come in and sweep with the one-prize Roaring Moon. Interesting idea. A Pidgeot Shenpao deck. Look at that. Ooh, it's playing to Dunsparce. Unfair Stamp Klefki. There's a lot to digest here. It's kind of a bit of a toolboxy build with the Unfair Stamp in there. I mean, Unfair Stamp could be good, once again, with like the Greninja Cologne combo. Like Boss or Counter Catcher, Unfair Stamp, Cologne, Greninja. Seems kind of scary, not even just with the EX, even with the Radiant Greninja. Gotta give it up for Meowscarada. Meowscarada Arceus Pidgeot does also play the Ursaluna, because why not? Ursaluna's a really good card. And I guess you can set up damage with Meowscarada and Alakazam and stuff to kind of set up for maybe a big KO with the Ursaluna at some other point in the game. Cool stuff. All right, next tournament. We just looked at that one. I lied. I'm trolling. More straightforward. Shenpao deck won that one. Another Greninja Charizard to look at. I mean, is this deck good? Is there potential? You're playing two very powerful attacking EXs. I mean, three powerful EXs. You include the Pidgeot, but in terms of attackers, you have two very powerful EXs in the deck combined together. Is this deck legit or is it a meme? I don't know what to tell you, but it definitely looks like a very interesting concept, and maybe I'll try it out for a video when we do eventually get Greninja EX. Greninja Charizard. You're also playing two of like the most popular Pokemon in the game, so like you get points for that, I guess. Interesting. Any other cool stuff here? Yeah, we can move on to the next tournament, I guess. There's a lot to go through. Again, we're not going to be able to look at every tournament, just some of them. A Lost Zone Greninja deck is interesting. That kind of works, too, because you do have the Snipe Attack with Greninja. You have Sableye, which Sableye combines nicely with Greninja. And you even get Radiant Greninja you can play, too. And this Lost Zone build also plays the Cologne and the Unfair Stamp combo. That's interesting. And it's even, of course, playing good old Ursaluna, which, kind of makes sense to have within this deck. And I guess this is a Lost Zone build. Try to go for a bit more of a different approach with the Boss Cologne Unfair Stamp. There's no Counter Catcher in this build. I guess it's hard to make room for it. There's a Flutter Mane, though. Cool stuff, cool stuff. I like the innovations. Arctina Superior to help against... for the Greninja, too. Interesting. Okay, well, yeah. Arctina Superior to help against Charizard. Wait, what's Greninja weak to, actually? Greninja's weak to Psychic. Okay. Look at the Xatu Espathra deck. No Bayonet in the deck, just straightforward on the Espathra engine. Does play a lot of TMs, though. Crisis Punch, Devo, and Evolution. All right. Check out the next tournament here. Yo, okay, this is what I'm hyped for. I was hoping to maybe see this. There's an Arbok Unfair Stamp combo. So, if you don't know what Arbok EX does have a really cool attack, Menacing Fangs. Does 150 damage, and you discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand, or your opponent discards 2 cards from their hand. What you basically do with Arbok is if you play Unfair Stamp with Arbok, you can Unfair Stamp your opponent down to 2 cards, right? And then you can Arbok them and put them to a 0-card hand, effectively putting them in top deck mode. It's kind of a dirty combo, and it's something that I'm kind of interested to try out when we do get Twilight Masquerade in May. And this Unfair Stamp Arbok combo seems kind of nasty. That's a really cool idea, and I'm glad we got to see a deck list for that. It's another Pidgeot Greninja build here. Does play the Snipes and the Unfair Stamp Engine, and of course, does play Ursaluna in the deck too as a nice big attacker. That's cool. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Is there anything else? Now we can move on to the next journey here. We'll look at a few more, I think, before we end things off here. Nothing new there. I'm just trying to see if there's any like new deck lists. We've gone through most of like the existing stuff. We got another Quad Iron Thorns deck. 16 energy, jeez. A lot of Judge though, like heavy Judge, Grabber, Crushing Hammer, stuff like that. This one here was won by another Pidgeot Greninja deck. So yeah, this might be the best way to play Greninja, just play with Pidgeot. Just like the Charizard formula works before, it might not make it work with the Greninja EX. Does have Hawlucha in the deck, again, for that extra bit of damage you can pull off. And again, opting for the Unfair Stamp Ace-Spec card to try to get some crippling plays, potentially with Greninja Snipe Attack, Cologne Countercatcher, which you gotta watch out for. There's actually a lot of Greninja Pidgeots. Another Greninja Pidgeot in this tournament. Ooh, interesting ace-spec of choice. Playing the Neo Upper Energy, not playing Prime Catcher, Unfair Stamp, playing a Neo Upper Energy as the ace-spec. Interesting idea to play in this deck. It also plays Palkia V-Star 2 and a Minior to attack for control. And there was 4 Pidgeot Greninjas in this tournament. Jeez. This one's nice. It's got the Ursaluna, it's got the Pidgeot, it's got the Greninja, and it's got the Unfair Stamp. Playing 2 TM Devos too, probably really good in the mirror match actually, or just against like Charizard. Like Charizard and Greninja are probably going to be the 2 big decks where like TM Devo is going to come up. We'll have to see how popular Greninja EX is in our format, obviously. But I do think that TM Devo is going to be very important in beating Greninja EX in our new format. So it is cool to just have 2 of them. Makes the mirror better. And then there was another Greninja Pidgeot here. This one's got some interesting stuff. It's playing Rotom, playing Ursaluna, playing Alakazam. Radiant Alakazam's an interesting idea within the deck to set up damage, and also playing Unfair Stamp alongside 2 copies of TM Devolution. So that's cool. Anything else? Then we can move on. Seen some of those decks already. This tournament was won by an Arctina. But like I said, Arctina, I guess Survival Cast can be kind of cool within Arctina. I guess there's some value. You can put that on the Arceus or even the Giratina. You get like double Lost Impact depth. I guess that's kind of decent. Yo, Dialga Matang with Hero's Cape. No Mew or Ursaluna, but does have Bibarel in the deck as a draw engine. Ooh, what's this? A Pogo Zapdos deck. Or a 151 Zapdos deck. I don't know why I said Pogo Zapdos. I got confused for a sec. A 151 Zapdos deck. That's what it was. The set name like escaped my mind for a sec. That's interesting, huh? I forgot Zapdos DX existed. I think a lot of people did. It's actually really playing heavy on the Cologne engine too. I like it. I don't think I've done a video on Zapdos yet. Maybe that's something to try out. All right, let's check this one. Anything interesting? Another Arc Superior. Probably Arctina Superior. Whoa, never mind. This is an Arc box deck. It's Arc Superior Zard. Got the Iron Thorns in the deck to shut off abilities, and even playing Alolan Vulpix V-Star. So no Giratinas. Playing Hero's Cape. It's got Judge, Skateboard, Future Booster Capsule. Very cool stuff. Even Minior. Just kind of a Arc box counter style deck. Cool stuff, cool stuff. What else do we got here? Very straightforward Lost Box deck. Playing the Ursaluna. We do have the new Lana, which is a cool addition to Lost Box. Put any 3 of any combination of Pokemon and basic energies, turn this card in your hand. So it's like a budget wish version of Clara. Clara can get back Radiantsar now. Lana's assistant says it does not get back Rule Box Pokemon. So when you play Lana, you can't put back Ursaluna or Charizard. But you can put back Sableye and Cram, which is kind of what this deck is kind of playing into here, it looks like, with the heavier Sableye Cram count. That's cool. I like it. I like it. Yeah, and the Ursaluna just kind of better than Charizard. We'll look at this tournament here where the Dialga Matang deck won. Cool stuff, cool stuff. Playing the Mew. Ooh, a Samurai Iron Valiant deck. Interesting idea. Maybe I gotta try this out for a video. I guess you can play Roaring Moon in the deck too. Maybe could be a decent attacker within the deck also. Playing this new Stadium where if you play a supporter from their hand, you can heal 10 from each of their Pokemon. Okay, I like it. Cool concept. There's a Quad Iron Thorns deck in this tournament too with the Crushing Hammers, the 2 TM Devos and stuff. Interesting stuff. And the Lost Box deck here. Shaman, Ursaluna, and Raikou. No Moon and no hands. Just playing all those attackers. Shaman's not bad because you can Mirage Gate easily to it. And a couple Goldengo decks too. Prime Catcher Goldengo. Do we see one with the Hyper Aroma? We do not. Alrighty then. Well, I think that'll wrap up today's video. We looked at a lot of tournaments. We've been going on for nearly 40 minutes here of looking at new decks in Japan. I'm always down to do these kind of videos when new cards come out. Again, I was waiting to do a video where we looked at Crimson Haze decks. I've just been so busy with all the content on the second channel. I did want to eventually get to this video where we look at decks from Crimson Haze, and I'm glad we got to it. Greninja EX, Ursaluna being the two big EXs out of the set. Saw some Iron Thorns decks too. Some very interesting quad Iron Thorns decks to be exact. But that'll be for me. If you enjoyed the video here on the second channel, leave a like. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 13,000 subs, and I'll leave a link to Limitless here if you want to go look at all the city leagues. You can look at the ones we didn't look at because there's more going on for sure. But hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all on another video on the second channel. Bye-bye.